Would you rather never watch sports again or never have sex again?
Oh my God.
Wow, I did not know that was coming.
That is a tough one. I don't even know what that's.
All right, can we
Wow.
answer? Could I be a different age than I am right now? Could I be 85? Because then I think I'd be okay without sex, and I still want to watch
I think
sports.
at 85
you know what I
I'd
mean?
be like, yeah, I'd get rid
Do
of
I
the
get
sex.
to choose what? That is, I can't. That's awful.
Yeah, that's a
I'd
bad
rather
one.
lose a limb.
Welcome back to the dojo. We are still on the mobile set here. We have a guest on today's show that I'd like to say I'm very excited
I'm
about.
very excited. If you would have told me ever that I'd be in a couch in Caesar's Palace talking to Lisa Ann, I'd think you're crazy.
And the guest is Lisa Ann. Lisa, how are we doing?
I'm great. I think we're all at that point in Vegas where we've lost our voice a little bit, which, we're like, oh, we got to record a podcast. I can barely talk. Between the yelling over the loud noise, everything. But we're there. But yet we're so committed to just powering through. So I feel great.
Oh yeah, content's everything.
Everything. And I've had a long-standing take since this is my third time, I think, in Vegas. There's no better feeling than the flight to Vegas. And there's no worse feeling than the flight home of being like, wow, I never want to come back.
I love seeing people at the airport that are like going through the security line and they have a duffel and they don't even have the gumption to carry it. They're like kicking it, just kicking it. Everybody just looks like they've lost, especially if you take an early morning flight, which I try to do. Everyone just looks like they've lost their life. They never want to come back. And meanwhile, in a week, they're booking their next trip.
There's no soul in the eyes of people leaving Vegas.
None.
And the people getting off the flight's like, whoa, like, let's go party.
This is my third trip here this year.
I was going to ask, you live here or no?
No, I live in New York City, but somehow my schedule landed where I'm coming here already like 10 times this year.
I was going to ask, because I saw on Twitter you were like all over the place this week and you ended up in Vegas somehow. That's crazy.
This is my, 8th or 9th trip of 2023 already. It's been quite a travel year for me.
Wow.
No way.
I was also very impressed because I woke up this morning, wiped the crust out of my eyes at like 10:30. First thing I do is I go on Twitter. First tweet I see is Lisa all dolled up, dressed, motivational tweet. I'm like, I was just with her 5 hours ago. How is she already up and at it and moving around? How do you do it?
How do you do it?
I like doing it.
Did you get any sleep last night?
I did, and I didn't drink much last night. So if you don't drink much, you can wake up. I woke up before my alarm, 20 minutes. You know how good that feels. Where you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I feel good. Slept great, but I like doing it. I remember, me being much older than both of you. How old are you?
I'm 25.
Okay, you can add you two together and you're my age. And I remember how difficult it was to interact. We had to do a fan club by mail. I was the first one of my friends to have a computer and learn print shop so I could do a monthly newsletter and stay connected with my fans.
Wow.
You had to buy ads in a newspaper, so you had to decide what sports page everybody was reading. And, where am I going to place the ad? When's it going to land? And you were constantly trying to figure out, we had phone books, we had pagers. So the fact that I can just do this instantaneously from anywhere in the world from my phone is like still a gift to me.
And something that I was going to say too is having met you, an incredible person, but coming from like what we do, we talk about it all the time where one of our mantras is like you won't outwork me. That's like something that we're big on, and what we do with the podcast, with social media, just you won't outwork me. Having been able to spend 2 days around you, I don't think I've ever seen someone that works as hard but makes it look so effortless. Like we're at a club last night till 3 a.m. and it is constant networking, It is just like, I just want to say that was very cool to witness, as almost not humbling, but to be like, wow, like I'm working hard, but this is crazy. Like when I work hard, it looks like I'm working hard. Like I'm like sweating, like, geez, it's a long day. Like I was just at this dispensary, we did this, I had this whole shoot, and then I'm coming here, and then I'm going there, and it's like energy is like on 1,000. And we show up to film today, and I was like, dude, I feel like someone took my soul last night. Like I don't know how to live right now.
Yeah.
Like breathing is hard.
You also brought up a really interesting point about like how long you've been doing, what you've been doing, the transition and like media from where you started to like where it is now, and just how different your job has transitioned throughout the last 20 years. I'm sure it's always shifting for you, but in terms of like having newspaper ads and such versus now you can do it anywhere in the world, like to me that's just like pretty crazy that you've seen the evolution of what you do and how it's changed.
And I think that gives me a greater appreciation for the ease of social media and why I love plugging content out there.
Sure.
It's just because I saw the struggle.
Yeah.
I still have a scrapbook with like newspaper ads when I was so proud, like the early 90s. I'm like, oh, my photo's in the sports page. This is so cool. It's by the box scores. Like, that's where I've always wanted to be. And as for radio, you know, when I was on the road feature dancing, I got to visit the best sports shows all over the US. And as soon as I would go in, I realized, like, you get to know the host cadence, you see what they're about. It was much harder to pre-listen to them before. So if you weren't in that network, you could just go to their AM station and find them. It wasn't like iHeartRadio is online, you can hear any station. So I would really have to take that first like 5 minutes and like feel the room, who talks the most, you know, who likes to chime in, this and that. And I would get these spots that were supposed to be 15-minute spots for the club. And because I loved sports and I always wanted to talk sports, and I had already planned to go to a game while I was in that city for, you know, that gig, they would keep me for an hour. And so it just became really natural that like when I was going to stop being on the road full time, I was going to be doing radio.
And talk to me a little bit about kind of your love for sports. 'Cause I feel like that might be something that's lost on a lot of people, or that, you know, not that you wouldn't expect, but the depth of knowledge that you talk circles around me when it comes to sports, and I feel like I've like the only thing I'm interested in is sports. And like you had a whole career and then made this transition almost seamlessly, and now it's like you're at the top of the game in one profession and now you're at the top of the game in this other profession. Like, talk to me about that love for sports and like where it started and how you got to where you are now in sports,
and like the transition from sports to sports betting too, and how you got into that.
So sports started as a kid. I grew up in Easton, Pennsylvania, very small town. We had Lafayette College, so Lafayette Lehigh was a big rivalry. So growing up, my mom was dating the basketball coach for Lafayette College.
Okay.
So we got to go to every home game. She was what they called a basketball mom. She and the other moms would cook meals so that the away team could get a home cooked meal before they got on the bus. So her doing that allowed us to have access to go to all the games. You know, her boyfriend at the time for years. So my life revolved around Lafayette College's basketball schedule that was on my fridge. Like, I knew, and the sound of the sneakers squeaking my first couple of games, I was like, I'm so in love with this. And then I started playing basketball. So I played basketball competitively all through school, did all the tournaments, live in a building now that has a basketball court so I can still shoot hoops. And so basketball was kind of my mom's side of the family. My dad, who we only saw on Sundays, loved football. Also a big Penn State fan, so he'd be watching Saturdays, we'd visit him on Sundays. So I really realized young, like, if I want to have conversation during football season, I need to learn this sport because this is what we're doing. 11 to 5, we're watching games, right? And my dad really didn't like broadcasters, so he would play Italian music while we watched the game.
Interesting.
No way.
Hated. And so sitting at the strip club and watching games with music playing, I'm like, this just reminds me of my childhood, because you don't feel the energy of the cheering of the crowd when you're listening to music. It's so anticlimactic. It's like, please turn off the music and let us hear, you know?
A massive play, you got Botticelli playing in the background. It's like, come on, man.
Yes.
It's a huge hit.
That's how I feel at being at Circa, bro. It's just bumping fucking EDM the entire time.
It ruins it.
I know.
But then I have like 3 drinks. I'm like, you know what?
I wish they could give us options in our cabanas where it's like, if you put in these earpods, you'll get this network. But so back to that. So it made me learn football, because if a ref was calling something, I had to know what he was calling, because I couldn't hear the broadcaster tell me what he was calling. And if I wasn't sure on commercial, I'd ask my brother or my dad, what just happened there? Why was that called? So probably by 12, you know, I'm knowing all the rules and I'm knowing what the refs are calling, just because I was not allowed to listen to the audio. So basketball and football were my 2 loves. Wasn't until later in life that I really dove into baseball. So then you picture me loving sports, being able to get in the business and being able to go on the road. The first thing I thought to myself was like, why wouldn't I try and do every stadium, every ballpark? Why wouldn't I, when I go into these radio shows to do interviews, ask if they have tickets? Like, why wouldn't I make this my thing? And pass the time that way? And so, you know, when you go to a game in a city and the fans know you're going and you talk to them at their local strip club about their stadium, there's this fondness they get for you. Like, wow, mad respect. Like, what'd you think of the park? What was your favorite thing? Who's your favorite player? And so that really wove into my fan base, where when I transitioned, my real fans knew this was real, because they'd had conversations with me about sports at strip clubs.
Yeah.
And also sports for me kept me healthy, kept me falling into the pitfalls of the industry, heavy drugs, heavy drinking, because I would go home. We had 4 channels on hotel TVs in the 90s, and one of them was ESPN, and it was SportsCenter. Yeah. And you watched the full thing multiple times. You would just let it repeat because it was like the only, and so you just got to learn more, And so I'd get on the road, get the newspaper, check the box scores, know what game I was going to, talk to everybody about the game, and it just became a passion that kept me out of kind of the darkness. I traveled alone for 5 years, feature dancing. They wouldn't buy a second ticket yet, right? I couldn't get security. And so traveling alone, you got to stay focused. And so the focus was watching games, knowing what games would replay on ESPN at like 3 a.m. when I was getting back from the club. So a game that I missed, I could still watch. And that was like, and then following athletes and reading their books and like learning about fitness and different workout things and cryotherapy and infrared. Like it just kept me fine-tuning my life because I looked at myself as an athlete. I'm on the road. I've got to stay in shape. I've got to live on the road and find food that still works in my diet. I've got to be fit to do this and not get exhausted. Same with doing scenes. You've got to be fit to do it and not get exhausted. So I always felt like I was an athlete, and sports just really kept me like loving life, excited about things. I can remember the decision, and the club wanted to pick me up, and I'm like, I'm not going to leave the hotel until LeBron makes this choice. So
listen, there's a huge decision going on. There's just no way.
There's no way
right
I can, this is before Twitter, so like there were certain, and if, my friend who's here with me, I was at a club in Denver, and the Nuggets were going into overtime, and I was supposed to go on stage, and I said to the manager, like, you can't do this to me. And you can't do this to every guy in here who's watching this game. I don't want to be on stage, right? That's just rude. And then it went into second overtime. He's like, it's getting so much later. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm not going up until we see it's double overtime. How can you make me, if I have to go on stage, I will be dancing and staring at the television the whole time.
And half the guys are going to be like, Lisa?
And many guys noticed I would watch games at clubs, like many guys. So when I was on the road, I also had a show on Sirius XM called Stripper Town, and it was Monday nights, and it was awesome. Dudes would call in and tell horror stories of shit that happened to them at strip clubs. By the way, I can swear, right?
Yeah, no, you're good, yeah.
And I would interview girls in the industry who were going on the road and feature dancing, but it was Monday nights. So my fans that knew I was pissed that there was no TV, that I couldn't see the Monday night football game, they would call, they'd lie to my producer about having a story about the strip club, and then as soon as they'd get on, they'd be like, all right, here's the score, here's where we're at right now, here's who got injured, and they give me this thing. 2 times my producer writes me up. He's like, this is Playboy Radio. We're not here to talk sports. And on the 3rd time, he's like, guess what? My friend in New York, Sirius there, he had a fantasy football show with Playboy Playmates. And it just broke up, and I know you're a great fit for this show. That was 2013. I flew to New York the next week. I met with him. I got a studio apartment across the street from New York, from the studios, because I was like, you know what? If I do my show from this, the energy is going to be so much better, and then I'll fly back to LA and do my work there, and I'll just come back and forth every week. And I would have my feature bookings on Sunday. Instead of flying me back to LA, fly me to New York. I'd stay there Sunday, watch games, do my show Monday night, and then Tuesday morning, first flight out, go to LA and work. And it was such an easy transition because those fans that met me for 30 years on the road knew I absolutely loved it, and they were happy for me. They were like, this is perfect, and they get to still be connected to me. So that's kind of the kind of round of it. I worked for SiriusXM for 7 years. I left, and now I'm working for my original boss at Better Sports Network. He was my boss that hired me, that believed in me and gave me the chance. And when he started his own company, I'm like, of course I'm going to work for you. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be right here.
Yeah, no, 100%.
That's crazy. I mean, after hearing that, now I understand how she was up at 8 a.m.
Yeah, the 8 a.m. tweet makes way more sense now. We were sitting here before you got here being like, we were talking about like, what we're going to ask you, like the conversation. And Trent, I was laying on the bed because I was a little tired. And Trent literally looked at me and he was like, I'm just going to ask her, like, how do you do it? Like, Trent woke up this morning, posted a video being like, all right, we're taking the parlay today, guys. Oh, my God. Like, checking Twitter, and the first thing is like, go be great today, and it's like a Lisa Ann tweet, so that
like,
makes
damn.
way more sense now. Yeah. But
Also, like, if I don't drink much, it's way easier. I've had a couple more hangovers already this year than I had the whole year last year, and it is not pleasant. Not pleasant.
so that's the key. Maybe we just don't get
Yeah.
like really drunk, and we'll be able to wake up and feel good.
But it's Vegas.
You said that you woke up before the alarm and there's no better feeling. We couldn't have had more contrasting experiences this morning. I woke up before my alarm and was like, oh my god, like who did this? Who let me wake up before this thing made noise? But that's incredible. I mean, two different sides of the spectrum on our wake ups this morning. But talk to us a little bit about kind of how sports betting now became a part of sports and kind of the way you saw, because I mean, we talk about it all the time. People have been betting way before it became, nationally legalized. So kind of talk to us through that experience for you, because, us getting into social media now, it was because of sports betting. It wasn't really just sports in general, right? So kind of, I would love to know how you've seen that progression of the way betting is almost taking over the sports world, where it's almost becoming not sports betting, but I feel like just in terms of the way things are going, it almost feels like we should switch the words, and it's like betting sports, because the betting almost has become more important than the game itself, it feels like at sometimes.
True.
I completely agree. And think about, you turn 18 today, you never knew sports betting wasn't an option for you. You're betting. That's your thing. You're betting. So when I started with SiriusXM in 2013, I was mainly covering fantasy sports. And remember, in 2014-15 was when FanDuel and DraftKings started going through all that shit where is it legal? Is it gambling? Can you believe that was less than 10 years ago?
That's crazy.
That they lost millions of dollars fighting states in court about whether it was chance, luck, or gambling.
Yeah.
And so before it was legal, the great thing was the offshore books had a ton of money.
Oh, yeah.
And the influencer money for offshore books was stupid. So as soon as I realized that was a thing, I was like, I need to watch every betting documentary.
Yeah, this will do.
I need to read every book on betting. I need to reach out to all my friends that do sports betting, because I was so dug into fantasy sports and seeing it growing up as an illegal thing. And then seeing it as an organized, all these props and all these options and all these choices. When you had a bookie, my uncles and dad had a bookie, they'd call and there'd be like 3 options. What do you want to put your money on? Fine, we'll do that. Now you can break down a game 100 ways, players 3 ways per game in NBA, the overall, the rebounds, like everything. And so watching how now we're looking at it like, is fantasy sports still going to matter? That's competitive, right? And how sports betting is definitely opening up an audience to watch games you would never watch, to follow players you would never follow, and to care about the Cleveland Browns. Like, you care because you're like, I took that prop for anytime touchdown. I'm all in. I got a parlay going right now with this. It just makes it better. If you're already a sports fan, it takes away any annoyance. Also, when you're betting, you also don't mind as many commercials because you're checking on your shit all the time. If you're watching a standalone game and you're not betting, what are you doing during the commercials? You're losing your mind. But if you're betting, you're like, all right, how am I doing? How's this looking? Let me go over the box score over here,
Or if you're us, it's like, wow, how is that already dead? I mean, the game just started. I don't understand how it's already losing. But
and also, if you think about recession-proof businesses, porn, alcohol, cigarettes, these are all recession-proof businesses. Gambling is right there. It's just that we're not clumping it in yet because it's so new
So early,
that it's been legalized. But it is a recession-proof sport. People are going to do it no matter what. It's an escape. And when the shit hits the fan, people will spend more money because they're like, oh, we could all die tomorrow. Like, now's the time to be biggest parlay ever. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Let me put my house on it. You might be going to war. People get even more careless. So I've always wanted to stay as close to recession-proof businesses as possible because it's inevitable that the market's going to do well for 10 years, dip for 5, come back up. And if you're living on that so close, you're going to feel it every time. If you're in my world, you're never going to feel it. I mean, I'm getting more gigs than ever, and you think about banks closing and people panicking, and I'm like, I got a bunch of strip club gigs, they pay me really well. I just hang out with my friends and drink. Like, I'm good. Is the world falling apart? Banks are closing? That's interesting.
the club is full, so I don't know. I don't know what's going on out there.
There were 300 some girls there last night and 10,000 customers, right? So so that's what really made me lean in. Like, okay, this is a safe place, and my demographic is mainly male. The demographic of betting is mainly male. Not that we don't want to open that up, but easy transfer for my people.
And have you kind of seen that, like, you're saying it's mainly male dominant. Have you seen an influx now of, females starting to get into it? Because I think we're starting to see it too. And, we work with a girl named Lauren who, a year ago, I don't even think I could have explained sports betting to some of my girlfriends. And now it's like we sit on the couch with her and it's like she's sweating with us and going crazy. And it's like, it's awesome to like see. And I wanted to see from your perspective as a female that is a cornerstone in sports betting right now. Have you kind of seen that new influx of females wanting to get into it, and what has that kind of been like, being almost, I would say, the Sherpa of it, kind of being like, yeah, no, this is like something we can get into here.
I mean, it's
because guys
great.
Are very like fraternity based, where it's
yes,
stay out, stay out, stay out, stay out.
Yes, it's been great. My very first FSGA in 2013, it was me and one other woman. Wow. And then like once in a while Stefania Bell would come to an event and I'm like, okay, there's 3 of us. And now there's a ton of women, not just working for the companies, but doing influencer work, being part of sport, and they know their shit. And even Barstool opened up to bring in, Kelly in Vegas is fantastic. Like so many more women into it. And what I notice about that community is the women, we all follow each other. We all try and meet each other. We are, it's like sports betting soul sisters, we call each other, but we are tighter, thick as thieves, more than any groups of men in the community, and everyone brings in like one new person, and helps each other out. And I noticed that women are really more like sweet about, if they see a post, they retweet it, they always comment. Like women really engage on social with their women that are in the same space as them. And so I feel like it can double in the next 2 to 3 years just from the influence of other women wanting to bring in other women. You met Lauren the Better last night, who I met through social media, initially through Cameo, but then we started talking on social media, became friends. She gives me 8 more people, follow all these women. They do great picks. Everyone's specific. My girlfriend Allie loves golf, so she's, big in golf, works with FanDuel. Steffi Smalls, but like it's so neat how everyone's like, I'm just going to choose my 2 sports I love. I'm not going to do all sports. So you know who your go-to people are. Yep. Baseball is also Allie. So she's baseball and golf. And like Steph and I are like, I do baseball because I have to. Steph's like, I'll never do baseball ever. So, but
what are your 2 favorite sports to bet on?
Basketball and football for sure.
Football.
But, I love golf and I watch every tourney. I'm like such a closet golf freak. And then UFC. Sometimes like during the pandemic, I got really into UFC. Having that bubble in Dubai, I was all, what were we spending money on? Who cares about $99 every Saturday night? We're not leaving our house. Watched everyone. I love that you could hear the hit and then watch it welt up. I love that it was like the no fans thing was like, silent. This is so intense. I could hear them breathing. That was cool. It's blood just, and I got in. So I'll do UFC from time to time, but I try not to while out. Baseball is too unpredictable, but I do play fantasy baseball.
Yeah, I love baseball too.
So I mean, I feel like I have to ask. We've talked about it on the show before. When we first started interacting with you. As it's almost like talking to what we would equate the Michael Jordan of the adult industry.
Literally
and
is.
We're talking a lot about social media though, and right now, we talk about it all the time with platforms like TikTok. It is the easiest right now to go viral and to build a following. And I started thinking about it yesterday a little bit. How, in a time where there was really no social media, did you become this figure in the adult industry where you couldn't go on Instagram, you couldn't go on TikTok and build your name like that? Yeah. How did that go? And also, thank you for your service. So I just had to get that out there too.
Where did the fame begin? Where did it start?
In 5th grade, I won a creative writing contest in the state of Pennsylvania, and I was on the cover of my high school, of my city newspaper. And I remember them coming into my school and shooting this photo of me. It's a black and white photo. I'm writing with my little pen with the eraser. Back then, we had pens that erased. And I remember that because everybody in my small town of Easton knew. And so anywhere we'd go, we'd talk about it. I was like, that definitely was my first taste of fame, where I was like, I like this kind of attention. I like this kind of, involvement with strangers. But in the industry, you knew that if you didn't have a fan club and you have a newsletter and you didn't talk to your fans on the road, you had to do so many things to become popular.
Yeah.
You couldn't just shoot scenes.
Yeah.
You had to go to bookstores and do bookstore signings. You had to do radio shows. You had to do conventions. You had to dance. Like you had to do 25 jobs and you had to consistently be doing them every month so that you stayed relevant. I would write thank you notes to every club I worked at. I would send flowers to the girls' dressing room at the clubs I worked at. Like I made sure I made a lasting impression on people so that they remembered me for something other than the brunette girl that was here at the club. I think that works to my advantage because I had to work so hard to brand myself that now it's like, oh, this is so easy to go viral. But people that go viral that quickly don't really often know how to hold it. Holding it is the key. Staying connected with your community, doing lives, knowing who your people are in lives so you can acknowledge them, and then you know who they are on other platforms. Like, it is a lot of memory and it's a lot of focus on letting your community know that if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be who you are in the big picture of it all. A lot of gratitude there.
And you know, we talk about this all the time too when we shoot like a video or something and we're like, oh, like this is gonna play really well. When you were at like your peak in the adult industry, would there be times where, you know, you'd wrap up a set and you'd be like, yeah, that was a banger, that's gonna go crazy? Or is it kind of like how does that, you know, because you know, you don't really get a looking glass into, you know, how that all works and all that stuff. Like, like when an athlete has a good practice, like, yeah, that felt good. Like, was there times where you'd be like, yeah, this is gonna be like a banger of a video?
You did know, but you also had to trust in the company that they were going to put it out properly. So even if you did something really good, you then were like, okay, they could edit this really poorly. I don't know how it looked on the camera. I started shooting on film. We didn't have digital cameras. So like each time you need to move positions in a scene, they had to relight the entire room and move everything around. So you and the guy had to be like hanging out and you had to be keeping him going so that you could go back in and have a strong second act and then a third act. It was 4 or 5 hours to shoot a scene, so it dragged out but you were only like working in 30-minute increments and then a 30-minute break. They'd relight, reset the room, come back in, 30 more minutes, and it dragged out so much longer. When things pop and you don't realize it, like when I got hired to do Who's Nailin' Palin, that was the Sarah Palin movie, you know, Hustler. And when I went back to write my first book, I looked in my planner because I save all my handwritten planners. It's a great thing for if you're going to write a book because you can kind of go through and relive your life. And you'll never remember it all. And I wrote Hustler movie. It was October 10th. I wrote Hustler movie. Like, that's how little I thought that movie was going to be any different than any other movie I ever did. And that ended up being the biggest game changer in my life. Like, that was when I went from still trying to be like, I just want to live a double life and not be super famous, but make really good money. And not like, that was it. That was when I couldn't go anywhere without being recognized. That was when I was like, okay. But as for walking off, I was just happy if I connected well with my performer, if I made the job easier for him or her. I just wanted everybody to have a good experience because with that, good things come out of it, right? So, and I've never operated in ego. So it's hard for me to walk off and be like, oh, I never knew why people thought I was popular. I never knew. I can look back now and say, I kept my look the same. I don't have any tattoos. I didn't change things that would make a fan not be my fan and bring in a new fan base. Like, so I just think it just built. But I never looked at myself as being anything special. And people will say like, oh, what's your go-to move? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know really what makes me so popular. I just work hard and get results. And that's what I don't understand. So never walked off thinking like, this is going to be it. But Palin, so many things came after that. TMZ called to do an interview right away, and I still believe that TMZ was real. So I thought it was my friends pranking me. So I was like, I hung up. I'm like, why would TMZ? And how do they get my phone number? Like, this is not real. They're like, we hear you're going to the airport. We want to shoot you at the airport. So I just hung up. And the PR girl from Hustler called me. She's like, did you just hang up on TMZ? I'm like, yeah, but why did they call me? They're like, well, they set this up. I'm like, then I had to tell all my friends. It ruined it for all of us. We thought it was just random that there were camera people at every airport. This was when TMZ was new. 2006, 2007. Remember, that movie was 2008. And so that was one thing. And then about a week later, Joseph Kahn calls. I had an agency at that time. He calls my agency and my assistant's like, Joseph Kahn, the music video director's on the phone. Eminem wants to have you in his next music video. And I'm like, that's got to be one of my fucking friends pranking me too. Like, no. So again, another one, I didn't believe it. And that was when I started to realize like, okay, shit's popping off and this is a big deal. And you've got to like understand that your friends are not fucking with you. These people are actually trying to reach you for real. And doing the Eminem video was just such an awesome experience. It's such a game changer because it was the first time in my feature career where the first question would not be, what's your favorite position? Every guy would walk up to me and ask me that. Then I do the Eminem video and everybody's like, what's it like to work with Eminem? And I was like, fuck yes, I'm here for this. This
Like
changed
missionary.
the whole
it was great.
conversation.
Yeah.
You're expecting the questions
that.
like, yeah, missionary. I mean, you asked about Eminem?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, oh my God, it was awesome.
I want to ask, so you're like the Jordan of the female entertainment industry. Who would be the Jordan of the male performers?
I mean, for your generation, it has to be Johnny Sins.
Yeah, I mean, that guy.
And I was
Goated.
Johnny's first agent, so you
Woodwork.
know. Johnny's from outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And Johnny was the only person that I was meeting. So I had a friend who would like find guys on the internet and he would shoot them like kind of low budget scenes, but if they were good, they'd call around to agents, be like, yo, I found this guy, I think he's great. And so when he told me about this guy and sent me photos, and Johnny we were on MySpace at the time, and I was always trying to find talent on
Wow, yeah.
MySpace. And I remember he was coming to meet me and I'm like, hey, this guy's gonna be a star. Like I gotta take him to eat like Ari would on Entourage, because this was also at the same time.
Yeah.
So we went to Bookit across the street, sat down for this massive Italian meal, got to know him really well, and I just had such a great time making his career special. Like I remember flying to Montreal and getting Brazzers to give him a stupid contract, and nobody thought I could come back with that money. And I was like, this is the money I'm going to come back, and I did. And so like, and he listened to every piece of advice I gave him, and he takes good care of himself. He's beautiful. He doesn't have any tattoos. You know, the reason it's harder to book a male performer with tattoos is because the guys want to fantasize that they're listening. What am I hearing?
Yeah, I hear
That's us.
I hear some echo.
Oh, that's us. The guys want to feel like it's them. And when a guy's like a huge arm tattoo and it comes in, it distracts the male viewer that's trying to, especially if it's a POV.
So true.
So Johnny, no tattoos.
That's so
There's
true.
no way you just so true that.
So true. So it would have to be Johnny Sins for sure. Don't you agree? I mean,
yeah,
he's
I
been
mean,
everything. He's
that-
been everything.
That wood goes to work. I'll tell you what. If there's something he does well,
I
it's
admire
probably
his
that.
art for sure. No, he's a good one. He's a good one.
Smart dude too.
Yeah.
Invested his money right away. Bought a bunch of
his art.
properties.
That's awesome.
You know, he's brilliant.
No, yeah, I mean, he's like, he wears every hat. You know, pizza delivery guy,
Yeah.
Astronaut.
Astronaut, military, cop. Yeah.
He does it all.
Kind of like, what is that like in terms of like, are there scenes where obviously, you know, you're talking about like the pizza delivery guy, like all that stuff. Like when you're growing up, you're like, that happens. Like when you're growing up and we were like younger, you're like, so this is like going to happen one day where like a plumber is going to be over and something, or like my pizza delivery girl is going to be gorgeous and like I'm not going to have to pay for the pizza. And it's like, do you ever think about that when you guys are like planning for a shoot or whatever, and it's like, oh, like the plumber's coming over, and it's like, have you ever ran into a real life scenario where like the plumber came over, and not that you like hooked up with the plumber, but just been like, this is just so odd that we like make scenes out of this?
Every time somebody's doing something, I need somebody in my apartment or my house. Or, you know, you like, what if the guy is hot? You know what I mean? Like, what do we do? We're in here alone. But I will say this, before like food delivery was a big thing, you know, the only thing you could get delivered was pizza.
Yeah.
And I loved ordering pizza on set just so that I could get the talent. Like, it was a big group scene with a bunch of girls. I'd be like, all right, we're only ordering pizza to answer the door naked. And we're only doing it to mess with the pizza guy, because he's been watching these movies too, and it never happens for him. And so we've got to do this for him. So like,
Living the dream,
I
dude.
like to reverse it and have as much fun with it as
That's
possible.
goated.
And so yeah, you have those thoughts. And of course, I can't tweet like, oh, I'm having a cable guy over today, because everybody on Twitter will be like, are you gonna have sex with him?
What does the cable guy look like? We need to see him
He
now.
looks like a cable guy, not Johnny Sins.
Was there ever like, I want to know like, what was there a scene where you're like, this was too much, like I can't do this, like I don't want to do this anymore?
There were scenes that after I did them, I was like, okay, I tried that. I'll never shoot that style of scene again. It
Yeah.
wasn't for me. I never tried anything sexually on set that I didn't do in my real life first. And I think that's a really important thing. And I talk to young performers about it, because you should desire that. You should want to have that in your sex life. And if you're not into girls and you haven't had sex with girls off camera, you shouldn't do it on set, because you're selling to people that want something pure and real. And I think it should be pure and real. So like it upped the game for me. And I can remember having my first experiences of things that directors wanted to pay me a lot of money for. And I just was like, I'm not doing it in my personal life. And I can remember like the text that I would send out the next morning. So this just happened. I'd like to do it a couple more times. And then I would have performers come to my house and help me practice. So I would be really ready for it. But there were scenes that I did them like, I'm not into bondage. Like, it's just not my thing. I'm not into being choked. You know, I would always tell guys on set, like, I'm a willing participant. I want to be here. Don't hold me down.
Yeah.
You don't need to restrain me. Like, I want to be here. I'm a willing participant.
I'm enjoying this.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but you do push the limits a little bit, right? And there have been scenes where I worked, my very first scene ever, I put the guy that I worked with, my very first scene ever, on my no list as soon as the scene was over. We never worked together again. We stayed friends. He, 20 years later, started a production company and paid me mad money to shoot scenes for his company. Loved that it was, but I had never had somebody, from Pennsylvania, a small town girl. Halfway through the scene, he just whacked me across my face. And back then, it was harder for them to cut. They're shooting on film. You weren't allowed to look into the camera, like all the, and I remember stopping and I'm like, what was that about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's when they realized how naive I actually was. But I was like, that's something you should ask a girl if she's into beforehand. Like, we should have talked about that. Like, I'm from outside of Philly. You hit me, I'm fucking stabbing you. Like,
I was about to say, you just fucking hit him right
yeah.
back.
And so we finished the scene, and afterwards, I gave him a hug and a kiss, and I'm like, we're never working together again. It was great. But we did the scene on this trellis on this cliff that like overlooked the Hollywood sign. The Hollywood sign was like 30 yards from this outdoor trellis, and I was like, it was the greatest overall experience. And then the slap happened, and I was like, was not expecting that. But that's also when I defined myself in the industry. That was the day that everybody realized, oh, this girl knows who she is, and she's going to be open and honest. If I'm going to be naked, having sex in front of multiple people who are working on this set, well, then I should be able to express my thoughts as well.
Yeah.
I should stay true to myself. This is the most vulnerable I could ever be in my life. And so that was a game-changing moment for me. And the fact that I worked with guys through time, that we had great runs, and then eventually the run would be over, and after the last scene I'd be like, so this was our last time working together. And they were like, I could tell you weren't loving it. And I'm like, yeah, you're getting more aggressive for me, or you're doing something that I don't like. And I think we should scenes are only good if the performers are actually enjoying them.
Yeah.
And a lot of people I call paycheck performers, like we do athletes, they're just doing it to get paid. It's like, no, fall into it. Like, have some passion with it. Enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, don't do it.
And is there so that's kind of an interesting point. Is there, because I guess as when you watch, you don't really think about that from the backside of it. Is there like a list of things that each performer comes to the set being like, I'm not comfortable with this, and this, so don't do this, and this?
In the 90s, we were treated like gold because there weren't a lot of women in the industry, and they were always afraid we were going to leave. So they told us to do this, like, hey, know what you want to do. Today, because the internet's 2005, it became, we need as many girls, we need to shoot as many scenes as we can. There were companies shooting 50 scenes a week. So girls were getting picked out from malls. There were scouts that would go out and find 18-year-olds, be like, you want to make 20 grand a month? They'd put them in a car, take them to the agent's office. The agent would give them $500 cash for each girl. Girls would sign a contract. They're doing scenes. They didn't even know yet to ask that. Now we're getting back to that in the industry where there's a conversation beforehand. But my entire career, I would sit down with my performer. Hey, what don't you like? Like, if guy has a curve, you want to ask him like what angles are good for him, what's not. Do you have a knee pain right now? My first question is always, what's your favorite position to pop from? Because we have to save that for last. We don't want that too early.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it difficult for you. I want to save that for last, and it'll be your go-to, and then we don't have a problem, right?
Yeah.
But communication is key. And when I meet young performers, I always talk with them about like, know who you are. And it's easier on the male performer if you're honest with him and he's not worried about pushing your limits. He's got feelings and he's concerned, and he doesn't want a bad rap where some girl goes on Twitter and is like, oh, this guy did this to me. Then the guy's like, well, you didn't tell me not to.
Yeah.
So it is something that needs to be discussed. And I believe people should have consent conversations in their own personal sex lives. If you're out there single and meeting people, having that conversation, it doesn't sterilize the action of the intensity of, getting drunk and meeting some random person in a bar and wanting to have sex. But like, know your cues. Whether you tap each other twice was always my thing. Like, that means I'm not comfortable with something, or I'm just not loving that moment. And know like what you're good with. Women tell me now, like, I just met this new guy, first time together, he smacked me and he choked me. So I'm like, okay, well now you got to tell guys and make it fun. Tell them you're a willing participant.
Yeah.
But having consent conversations is more important than ever, and especially because people are getting married later. We're having more sex with random people. Talk about it, feel comfortable with it, and then enjoy it.
Would you rather never watch sports again or never have sex again?
Oh my God.
Wow, I did not know that was coming.
That is a tough one. I don't even know that.
Can I
I'm gonna.
all right, can we
Wow.
answer? Could I be a different age than I am right now? Could I be 85? Because then I think I'd be okay without sex, and I still want to
Yeah,
watch
I think
sports,
at 85,
you know what I
I'd be
mean?
like, yeah, I'd get rid
Do
of
I
the
get
sex.
to choose what? That is, I can't. That's awful.
Yeah, that's a
I'd rather
bad one.
lose a limb. Can I give up an arm? All right.
Or
Yeah,
you can
you
lose
can
a
give up
limb
an arm.
and you can have both.
Then
Would you lose a
I'll
limb?
give the arm. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Yeah.
Left or right arm? Are we giving?
We're gonna do my left.
Okay.
Because I'm a right-handed person.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? I could go to this, but why struggle that hard?
Yeah.
That's a horrible question.
So
That was brutal.
you just threw me so off.
I know.
That was so on the fly. I liked it so. That was so good, right?
I'm still thinking. Like, I think I would go. I think I'd get rid of sports. I'll be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I think I'd get rid of sports.
You just pick up a new hobby?
Yeah, I mean, I could get into like knitting, just like ferociously knit in my free time. But I feel like
Read
that
some
would
books
just
or
be.
two?
Well, what would you do?
Fuck, bro. I don't know, man. I mean, a life without sports, like, a life
Yeah, that
without
would
sex would suck.
dude.
I also don't think it's healthy to go without sex.
I don't think so
And I
either.
don't think it's healthy to go without sports either. I mean,
You make a
I
great
think
point.
that's a really unfair question.
It is. It
Really
is.
putting me on the spot.
But I like you can take a limb away. and
I'd
have
rather
that.
lose a limb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would take the limb. I think
What limb would you get rid of?
Probably my left arm as
Everyone's
well.
getting rid of their left arm.
Because legs, you want to, keep.
Yeah, you
know
gotta
what I
keep
mean?
the legs. You don't
Yeah.
want to be.
But you need the
I know.
legs for the sports and the sex.
Now remember, the sex is going to be a little bit trickier with one arm. We're going to have to
you'd
really
be
think
out
about
here.
that.
Yeah.
Some positions are going to be a little bit harder to
Yeah.
achieve.
You don't have a lot of leverage
yeah,
now.
you're not
It's
going to be able to
very-
pick the girl up anymore and put her on the counter.
still
You
do
know?
You do that a lot.
You can still do the cookie cutter positions.
Yeah, yeah. You
but
keep
I
it
mean,
simple.
that's like
You keep it
watching,
simple.
wiffle ball versus baseball,
Oh man.
It's like watching wiffle ball versus baseball.
Do you have a bet that you like lost that was just a really bad beat? I had one last night. I can't stop thinking about it. But do you have any bad beats that you remember or recall that just were so much pain?
Yes, and I for what stands with me the most, okay, bad beat was the Super Bowl. I will say I did bet the under and Eagles to take the win. And I still do believe that they could have won, and I still do blame it on the sod. So I'm in part of Sodgate in a big way. I followed every article. I'm very that. But there's times where I've been busy on the road and I didn't adjust my lineup, and I'll never forget the first time I didn't put Draymond Green in. He had a triple double in a fantasy head-to-head matchup, and I was like, I regretted it it scarred me so hard that I double check and plan ahead. I'm going to be at an event at this time.
Mm-hmm.
You better set your lineup, then tinker, then take a break and retinker. But yeah, there have been bad bets over bad bets over bad bets, and you just gotta roll with it and think of it good.
Have you had a fantasy take that just did not age well? Like I remember, actually it was probably 2 years ago when I said Zach Wilson was going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and now he's probably going to be a backup. Like, do you have any takes in fantasy where you were like, this guy is it this year? And do you remember who it is? Because I feel like even in my friend groups, in our group messages, when fantasy football comes around or fantasy basketball comes around, like you always clown that one kid that was like, I'm drafting Joe Mixon in the first round, and Joe Mixon has an awful year, and you're just like, yeah, you're gonna draft Joe Mixon again this year, or like, what's your plan?
Man, I really had higher hopes for Tyler Higbee. This really hurt me this year because I was heavy. You could get him late, and I was touting him super, super hard. Of course, I held on to the dream of Leonard Fournette and really expected a big season. Like it's so often like in fantasy, you're so hot or cold. So I was on Zach Wilson this year too. I mean, luckily it balanced it out because I was on Tua as well. But yes, it happens every season. You're gonna do it. You're gonna go all in. Somebody's gonna save the clip. They're gonna replay it for you every week, and you're like, yeah, I said that. I thought Michael Gallup was gonna at least have 15 touchdowns this season. Okay, yes, I said that. I did tell you to play this prop. Okay, yes, and. Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, we get obliterated with that stuff pretty frequently.
Every day.
But you don't get people that say to you, "You should have stuck with sucking cock."
Yeah.
See, when I give a bad beat, the responses I get are vile.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, that's
and plus the disrespect women already get for trying to be in sports betting, which
mine's
I think
next
is foul.
level.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine the DMs.
I mean, but
My DMs are not open to strangers, and this year one of my New Year's resolutions was to no longer troll trolls, and I'm doing really well. I broke the habit, but like normally when a guy would say something like that to me, like you should have stuck to sucking dick, I would usually write back, oh, my condolences. Nobody wants to suck your dick. I get it. And I realized I just shouldn't do that anymore as a 50-year-old woman.
Yeah.
So I had to stop, but it's so hard.
Yeah.
Because when they say it, I don't get as upset as I feel like George on Seinfeld with the jerk store, where I'm like, I've got the perfect fucking comeback and I'm going to throw it out there. And now I'm like, oh, I can't do that anymore. It's not a good look.
Speaking of the DMs and being in the sports world, I mean, I'm sure they're full of athletes.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Yes.
Has there ever been a time where, you know, Sunday's coming up and an NFL player DMs you at like 2 a.m. and you're like, dude, you're playing tomorrow. I'm going to fade the shit out of you.
Every time, all the time.
Really?
And I've had interactions with athletes in person where, you know, they've been partying and it's been very disappointing to me. And I've been like, you know, like, you only got like 10 years to do this. You know, I'm the person at the strip club knowing that they were just in the bathroom doing blow or what have you. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, is this really what you want to be doing? You know, you could do this later. Like, can't you do this when you're 35? Like, why are you doing this now? You know, like, I can't like bet on you. I can't believe in you. I'm never going to look at you the same. Like, so that's been an impact where I've lectured repeatedly. But that is the great thing about the DMs. And if a player has a big game that I'm not following, I will time it perfectly to make sure I know when they're either on the team bus or the team plane, and I will follow him. And as soon as they notice you follow, they slide into the DM like, thanks for the follow, mama.
Yeah.
I appreciate it so much. I'm like, well, you had a really big game. And I wanted to tell you I liked it. And so that's how I normally would. But I won't do it until, you know, you have mad crazy amount of points in basketball or just a good game. And I'm like, and then if I want to meet a player and I'm going to their game and we haven't met yet, I'm like, okay, well, we'll meet after the game if you get in the end zone. And so like I
He's got 4 touchdowns.
I do
Why
all
are you
these
on today? It's
little personal challenges. Then I tell my friends, all right, here's the deal. I'll hang out with you after the game if he doesn't get in the end zone. But if he does, we're going to hang out. It just makes my life fun. And I've had my finger on the pulse of industries in my personal life since the early 90s. And now I've watched their lives change and grow, and they'll introduce me to younger players. You know, younger player will ask them about me and they'll be like, oh, I'll introduce you to you. It's cool. I've cooked many dinners for players' 21st birthdays.
No
Wow.
way.
Wow.
Does Lisa Ann slide in DMs?
Yes, I do.
Really?
Wow.
But you got to have a big game first.
Wow.
I mean, how did you two even connect? Like, did you slide in hers? Did she slide in yours? What
So
happened?
I think
started it.
she started by following me, and then I think what really started was what you were just talking about, how you were going to stop trolling trolls, and she had this tweet about she was going to start blocking people, and if you still see her tweets, you're part of this survivor list.
Yeah, it's
And I
Twitter
responded-
survival. It's like Twitter survival island. Yeah.
Yeah, and I responded. I was like, "Call me the lone survivor," because I was like, "I'm never leaving." I was like, "Call me the lone survivor," and I think that's what's kind of like started. And then I think I DM'd you about wanting to get you on the podcast and everything like that.
Yep.
But yeah, it was the lone survivor.
Let's go.
Still surviving.
Still
And
surviving.
I found him through a girlfriend of mine that loves sports betting. She lives in Huntington Beach, and I was just with her, and she sent you to me, and she's like, "You've got to follow him. He's amazing. By the way, you have to meet him." And so my friends give me so many good leads because they know what I love, and so right away I found you. And then I followed your other platforms, and I was like, "Holy shit! Like, you kill it on TikTok. Like, you kill it on TikTok.
Yeah, we've been going crazy.
But you kill it."
Our video did really well too. I don't know if you saw it. Also, my hand was shaking like I was.
But I
like,
love the comments that you wrote. Like, your hand would be shaking too if you met Lisa.
Yeah, I was like, "Hey guys, if you met Lisa Ann on like a Saturday at a pool, I'm pretty sure your hand would be shaking just as
Trust
much."
me, when they come over for photos, I can start to hear their heartbeat when they're within 12 inches. And then as they come to me, I can just feel it. Boom, 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 boom. And I always whisper in there, like, breathe. It's just me.
Did I do that?
You did.
Could you hear me from a mile away? You probably heard me from the parking lot. You're like, "Oh God damn it, he's here." I'm gonna throw a word to you that or a phrase that you coined that we've talked about, and I want you to explain it for him.
What is this?
A feverish
Masturbator.
masturbator.
A feverish masturbator.
Yes, you can also go to the domain feverishmasturbator.com, which was one of the over 400 domains that I own, and it drops into my YouTube channel. So a feverish masturbator is someone that has an unhealthy consumption of adult content. This could be anywhere from 4, 6, maybe 8 hours a day. Those people are out there. You know about incels. You know, a lot of them are incels. And they have a different approach. when I see them and we lock eyes, it's very much like the tape this person has walked. Picture the combine. The quarterbacks that are out there, the coaches that are watching them have already watched endless hours of film.
Yeah.
They get to see them in person. They know exactly what they're looking for, right? This is how the feverish masturbator approaches me. Like, I have watched so much tape on you, and now I'm in front of you, and it can be jarring because it's like he's sweating profusely.
It's like I'm a Nat Geo.
He's maybe talking about something that was so specific in a scene that I'm like, don't remember, like. I told you, like, so you had your hair up in a ponytail in the scene, and then, like, halfway through, you took it out. What made you do that? And I'm like, that, my friend, is a feverish masturbator.
What the
How wild is that?
That's crazy.
They know and, like, of course, every day I get asked, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? And I'm always like, if you have seen all of my scenes after almost 30 years in the business, get a new hobby. Like, why should I have to do it again? Like, I've done everything, okay, a million times. Like, you, my friend, are a feverish masturbator. If you see some guy's screensaver and it's a porn girl and he wants that out at everything he does in his life, church, work, PTA, that man is a feverish masturbator.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I now have to ask you something about that because I
changed my screensaver.
No, dude, change your screensaver, Lisa, right
now.
Get her off your lock screen now before I ask this question.
My screensaver says, "Love people, use things. The opposite never works."
Wow.
Use people, love things.
Love people, use things.
Or what would be the opposite?
The opposite would be what you said.
Using people to love things.
Oh, got it.
It's from the minimalists.
Got it.
So I have to ask you if this is weird because I was told it was weird, but I didn't think it was that weird.
Here we go.
When I first got into doing this whole thing, I went out to LA and was like sleeping on couches and all that stuff, and I read this article and it was your lock screen should be a motivation. Because right now in the 21st century, you see your lock screen more than anything in your entire life. You sometimes see it more than the outside world. And I was on these couches in LA, like really just like struggling, like trying to do this whole like put my pics online, like really putting myself out there for the first time. And I saw that article and I had a massive crush on this like girl that did TikTok. So I'm just gonna make her my lock screen because every day I'll wake up and be like, all right, I gotta get like 1 million views. Like I gotta get 1 million views. Like I'm going to pop up on her screen today. Like this is my motivation right now. Is that weird? Because then I would be out and like I would meet someone and I would like go to open my phone to like give them my number or get their number and it would be like them on my screen and I'd have to like explain this whole bit. I never thought it was weird, but now I don't have that as my lock screen anymore. But do you think that's like a weird thing? Like if you saw that?
I don't think it's weird because it had layers to it. You were inspired. Look, you were into her. But you weren't just into her superficially. You were inspired by what she was doing. She was already where you wanted to go. Mm-hmm. So she had like this power over you of like, you kind of emulated her in a sense. And even though you thought she was hot, it wasn't just that. The guy that has the nude photo, it's totally different. The only thing his mind is going to is being a feverish masturbator.
Yeah.
Right.
So
sure.
I love that you read articles and you pull something from them because that was brilliant. And it was twofold. You were young and you should have a cute girl on your phone, right? So like, no, that was not weird. That was actually on point.
Didn't work out when I would, meet girls' families and I'd be like, oh yeah, we actually went on this trip and like the dad would be next to me and I'd open my phone and be like, ooh. Ooh.
That's not your daughter, but I'm also not seeing the other girl. I'm just infatuated with her. But you don't understand. She's really good on TikTok and dad does not understand.
She gets plenty of views. It really is just that. It's like a motivational thing. You wouldn't understand. We don't want to hold you too long. I think we're almost at the hour mark. We've been doing this thing at the end of the episodes where it's kind of rapid fire questions. They could be silly, they could be serious. We're just going to throw a couple questions at you.
Please, and your question was fucked up. So
I mean, yeah, that was
so rude.
Super fucked up. I think you should apologize before we
I'm
do that.
sorry. I don't know. I just came up with it on the spot. I was like, ooh, that could be good.
So rapid fire questions, Lisa Ann. The Caramel Corn Shop, hit or miss in Easton, Pennsylvania?
Caramel
I heard it is the most
corn.
iconic.
How did you know about that?
What is that?
Oh
Did my
my
research.
God. That was so legendary.
Hit or
so
miss.
it was hit or miss, but when I was growing up, they would have these like 10-cent bags of candy. So it would be like a mixed bag of like stuff that wasn't as fresh from the day before, but it would be in this little mini brown lunch bag. And I remember we'd go downtown. It was just 10 cents. and there'd be like root beer floats or whatever was in there, and it was so magical. As a kid, you're down there and you'd ask my grandparents, like, can I have 10 cents and go in there? It was such an old school, wow, that takes me really back to my past. It was epic because I loved candy, and my mom didn't let us have any candy. Only my dad and my grandparents will let us have candy, so I love that place.
Showers or baths?
Both.
Really?
Yes,
we have a bath guy.
Okay.
Big bath.
Is that odd?
It's
Our
not.
bath guy's weird.
I sit in the bath and watch golf. Like
Yeah.
I soaked in the tub this morning, but I do rinse off after a bath.
Oh, for sure.
I do like to then do a little cold water, but in a nice tub, sweet. I love baths.
Wait, that makes sense because my whole thing with baths is I feel like I'm just in a soup of
Your
what
own
I'm
shit.
dirty of.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know
So you
what
have
I'm
to rinse
saying?
off after.
Yeah,
Wow,
for
do you take a
sure.
post-bath rinse?
Yeah. Well, I'll even take a post-shower rinse. Like, get in the shower after the tub.
That's
wash
what-
the shit off.
Yeah,
No, you said post-shower
Yeah,
rinse.
Post-tub shower rinse.
Yeah, but
after-
you said it as if you take a shower, get out, and then rinse off again
Again,
after you
you
get out of the
did.
shower.
By the way, you did. I got
Yeah,
to
no,
have
you
my
said
back
that. I
right
just
know
wanted
what
to
I
be like,
meant. You know
wow,
what
if
I
you
meant.
do that, we need to have a serious conversation when we're done filming today. If you take a shower, get out, and then rinse off again.
No.
Why have you never told me about the rinse?
I mean, I thought it was just kind of a normal thing. You don't want to just like get out of the tub that you've been sitting in.
You don't, and I also don't like to use a tub that's attached to a shower.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't
you like
either.
a solo
It has
tub.
to be a separate
Yeah,
tub.
for sure.
Do you have a
Has to be
shape of
separate.
tub you like?
Anything will do as long as somebody didn't shower in it beforehand.
Because he's got an egg tub.
Oh, those are nice.
It looks like an egg.
They're
Fits
really
well.
nice.
It fits well. It really fits my body well. Burgers or pizza?
Pizza
Really? Do you have
every
like a
time, all
favorite
day.
topping?
I really like anchovies. You know, I eat 95% plant based. So like when I'm gonna I don't do pork. I barely do chicken. But like give me some anchovies. They're kind of hard to find. People don't love anchovies. Really salty.
Anchovies.
Yeah.
Fuck
Lisa Ann
anchovies.
likes anchovies.
Yeah,
Who
they're
would have
really
known? Who would have known? High heels or sneakers?
High heels.
Okay. Is it be for a comfort thing or is it?
I'm just short. Most people don't know it. Like so far, the last 2 nights, I've had 7-inch heels on. So people think I'm 5'9". I'm 5'2", and so I get recognized more recognized less when I'm in sneakers. But I'll be walking through the airport and I'll hear a guy talking to his friend. He's like, I think it's her, and then I hear them looking me up and they're like, no way is she that short, it can't be her. And then they realize she's only 5'2", and they're like,
Yeah.
it's her. So it's given me an ultra, like a kind of privacy thing, always wearing heels.
Do you have a rapid question?
I'm trying to think of one.
Pools or beaches?
Ooh, okay. This really depends on the pool. Like, I remember when Hard Rock was a thing. Remember when Hard Rock was like the summer pool in Vegas? And I would be like, you will not get me in that water, because everybody was partying and I was like, there's got to be STDs in that water. Like, it was gross. Depends where the pool is. I love the beach. Love. But like California, the beaches are useless. The water's cold, kind of gray and dirty. You don't know what you're getting. But I was just in Miami and got in the water there. So I love them both.
I got one.
I have a rooftop pool in my building in New York City, and I
wow.
love
Wow.
it in the summer. It's amazing.
Well, if we're in New York, we're gonna have to stop by
Oh yes,
100%.
yes.
for the rooftop pool.
If you had to film a scene right now, would it be with an NFL player or an NBA player?
And what would the title be? No, I'm just
Can
kidding.
it be
I'll make the
both?
title.
I
Oh.
mean, can we be like merging the best of worlds? Could
like
it
an
be
all-star
like
team?
like an all?
We'll
Yes.
call it Lisa's All Stars.
Yeah. I mean,
It'll be a
do
Pro
I-
Bowler and an All Star.
Can we parlay it? Like, can we pull from different
If
leagues?
you-
That would be a tough one.
Yeah, actually, I'd love to hear your answer on this. Give me your 5, like, just you wish you could do a scene with in one time, like today, of current athletes.
I can't blow my rap like that, because my black book is hella valuable, and because no one's ever been name dropped,
Oh.
unless they've wronged me. There've been a time or two where somebody and I had to set them in place. But it's funny,
Yeah.
a player that's trying to meet up with me, that a couple of years ago we were going to meet up, and like right before, a big fail with me is when players ask me to like bring friends or like run errands. To me,
Yeah.
that's an errand. Like,
Yeah.
yo, you got any friends you can bring for my boy? I'm like, that's not my job.
Yeah.
Like, so we're not talking.
Yeah.
So now he's trying to like, I finally refollowed him again after like 2 years. So he hits me this morning. He's like, we should try this again. I'm like, don't drop the bag this time, bro. Don't ask me to run fucking errands for you. Okay, figure it out.
I love it, boss.
And this question's for our male audience out there. I know they, also like my friend group as well. I think, a lot of males out there in general. Is the clitoris real, and why do I not believe in it?
The mythical clitoris.
Yeah.
Yes, it is real. It does take a little focus. Each woman likes something different. And this is, again, where communication is really important. Also, have either of you ever watched porn with a partner, or have you always watched it alone?
I feel like, no, the porn's like that dirty little secret that you just do, and then you feel like terrible after.
Yeah.
You can
just,
learn
like,
a
wanna crawl
lot
up.
watching, and there's storyline porn, right? So if you're going to watch porn with in a relationship with a girl, you want something storyline, because you'll learn a lot about what the girl likes by what she's talking about that she's seeing. So it's visual. But in the more aggressive kind of scenes that are out there now, there's no time focused on it. So you're not learning from it. But if you go through, it's like, I like to watch with somebody. Like I like to watch foreign porn. Nobody speaks English. There's one director I love, Mark Dorcel. I shout him out all the time. And usually it's like all these, a melting pot, like Russian, Ukrainian women, like all these different, and they don't speak English. So I love that. And I don't know them. But they keep like their laundry on a bit. They do really good scenes. Like I kind of know the format. But when a new movie drops and I see the ad on AVN, because I still, get all the industry magazines, I'll be like texting like, yo, and I know what hotels I can rent that porn in. So it's like certain friends, I'm like, yo, I'll meet you out in California, make sure we stay at this hotel because we can get the Mark Dorcel movies. We'll watch it together. It's like a whole thing.
Wow.
Why, like, speaking of the storyline, I'm kind of a storyline sucker. I'm not gonna lie.
Look, me too.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Is that something that you guys think about in the industry itself, or is the storyline an afterthought? Like, is the storyline something that you've, in films that either you've directed or produced, really thought about that storyline, or is it just kind of something where, oh, we'll just throw the storyline in and then get to like the good part or whatever?
It depends,
the good part.
right?
I'm a sucker for the story. That's the first time I'm saying that out loud.
It's a 50-50, like talent and directors as well. Some people really have it planned beforehand. They give you an idea. Here's the concept, because if you're planning your wardrobe, you need to know if it's office attire.
Yeah.
If you're in an office, if you're a teacher. So you get that. But some crews I'd work for, I'd show up, they'd be like, all right, so how do you guys want to make this happen? Like, you want him to be like a UPS driver? Like, what do you want? And I'm always like, we should have this shit together. Like, we should have had an idea. I like to actually think about it the day before. So I kind of want to know what I'm fantasizing about. So I'm only in the game when I get there. But it is something I think about when I watch storyline movies. I like it's like a murder mystery. In the beginning, I'm like, oh yeah, that girl's gonna be the one at the end that does anal. I can already tell. But that's always the last scene in a 5-scene movie. It's always a build up. There's like a girl scene. Then there's like a real romance scene. They save the heavy hitters, like a closer in baseball. You know, I always call the girls that do the last scene, the anal scene, the closers. Like, you're the closer.
She's the anal girl. I can just feel it now.
She's the closer in this movie. I can feel it. But so yeah, I like.
Do you have 100% like hit rate with that? If we were to throw on like a random film, could you just be like, anal?
And every guy that I watch him with always now asks like, who's the closer?
Who's closing that
I'm
out?
like, oh yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
her.
tell you exactly
I
which
see
ass is
that one
closing that out.
tattoo. That one tattoo is telling me, and it's gonna be good.
It's like a scout. It's like an NFL scout. That one
Literally.
tattoo. He's got big glutes. He's gonna be able to run the ball real well. It's like that tattoo. That's anal. That's good. I'll tell you
all
what.
day. This is gonna be fantastic, and she's gonna leave her bra half on. I'm gonna love it.
Everything about it. I've actually seen like a couple clips about people saying that, to do a scene like that, you have to have days of preparation. Is that like
Days.
true?
Yeah.
Like the diet changes.
You don't eat for 24 hours. So, and what's hard about not eating for 24 hours is not the 24 hours because you train your body to fast. It's that then you have to go on set and do a lot, shoot a lot of photos before you shoot the scenes, maybe do some dialogue, the pickup. And so now you're actually having to use your brain and think, and your blood sugar is low. So a lot of times we'll just, break open sugar packets and put it in water and drink it. Some people will do Red Bull, some people, but it's liquids only. And so it's a real yo-yo on your body. And then of course, when you leave, you go to In-N-Out to the drive-thru and order like 10 things for one person in the car and
just
just
destroy.
slam them down on the 405. Like, you picture to me, the best hamburger commercial would always be the girl that's in the valley in traffic on the 101. She's peeling her eyelashes off that didn't fall off in the shower after the scene. She's stuffing her face with a burger. Like, we've all done it. I've done it so many times. It'd be a great ad.
The In-N-Out ad? Right
There it
off
is,
the
right
set,
there.
fresh off the set.
Carl's Jr., whoever,
Pounding the
but
burger.
I get to write it. I'm writing the commercial.
Yeah, don't be afraid to hit up Lisa for
Don't
the commercial.
be afraid
but
at the
she's
release
gotta write
and to
it.
get this going, because I would put that together.
That would also hit, I feel like. Like
that would smack for sure.
Yeah.
That would
That
smack.
would do numbers.
But you guys can like just communicate with your women and find the clitoris thing is real.
I don't believe you,
And
but
it's
sure.
magical.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's
Okay.
magical. What do you think? How
We're
do you
gonna
think?
find it one day.
You're gonna
Hopefully, that journey's been
Have
going
you
on.
ever opened a papaya and like looked at it inside, or fruit and how it's shaped?
Okay, so here's the thing about that is I actually have a buddy that I'm going to air out, and he was we had this as a joking conversation one time with my friend group, and he was adamant and said, dude, my sex life changed when I bought a papaya with my girlfriend and we went step by step on that goddamn papaya. And he was like, my hand was covered in papaya.
I learned this from the guys on Stiff Socks, and they actually sent me a case of papayas after I did the episode.
That's hilarious.
But they had me break one open and do a demo with them, so it does work. I would try it.
Okay, papayas, Nick, add it to the list of things we're
Because
going
if
to
you
buy.
find the clitoris and you can do the right thing with it, you need to have a lot less money. If you
It would
if you
just
can't do
be-
that shit right, you gotta be rich. When guys say to me like, I'm small or I'm really bad in bed, I'm like, just be a plastic surgeon. You're gonna meet hot girls and you'll have a hot wife. But if you're not good at it, you gotta be rich.
Yeah.
Lisanne, please make my day. Does size matter?
It does and it doesn't.
Okay, that was upsetting. Thought I was going to get an adamant. It's
No.
all about the motion of the ocean.
No, it doesn't because it's a mindset. Like, you can see big dick energy, and sometimes that guy's just an asshole because he knows he can be. It's kind of like the hot girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So you'd rather compromise down a little bit and be like, you know what, this guy's gonna be more giving and he's gonna do a lot of other shit and it's gonna be amazing. So it's about connection. For me, it's about connection more than the size completely. And I learned that in the business, and I learned that in my personal life as well.
Did you just, there you go.
There we
me?
go. Yeah, we're good.
There we go. It's all about the connection, guys. We're still here. We're still in the
here.
game.
Because think about it, if it's too big, you can't use it all the time.
That's what I'm saying. You know,
can't.
like you can't.
You've
If
seen
it's too
Mandingo.
big.
You've
Yeah.
seen Mandingo, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've had
In real life, to see that in human form with the naked eye, like right away, I have to stop everything and be like, I have questions. What was this like for you in high school? When you went to school dances, did girls know? What happened when you got a boner? How freaked out did girls get?
Does it touch your ankle? Like, what was
did
that
young
like?
girls run away from you? Like, how hard is it to date? Like, I'm like super curious.
Could you play sports with it?
Yeah, all of that.
Like, that thing's
did you
gotta be
tape it
just
down?
moving.
I mean, what kind of jock strap worked for you? Yes, 100 questions.
I've heard it was fake, like it's in a
It's
prosthetic.
not. It's real.
Wow, just walk around with a hammer.
Hammer.
That's
Dude,
insane.
what? But we didn't want to take up all your time. We did want to leave a little bit of time for you to ask us a couple questions if you have them.
Okay.
If not, totally fine. We
I
can
do.
wrap here. Okay.
How long have you two known each other?
We worked together 2019 at an internship together.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you do have that brohood, that connection where you've watched each other weave in and out of like relationships
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and some wins and some losses, some
Oh,
good
yeah.
times in life and some
Plenty
bad
of
times.
losses.
Plenty.
Are you single?
I'm not. I have a girlfriend.
How long have you two been together?
Almost a year.
And how about you?
No, single.
Are you planning on marrying this girl?
Yeah, I can see it.
Whoa.
I can see it. I mean,
Whoa.
I definitely love her, and I'm grateful to be in a relationship with her. That's for sure.
Do you see yourself getting married?
I would love to get married. One of my goals in life actually is when it's all said and done, I want to be remembered as a really good dad. I don't know if that's
Wow.
weird.
Wow.
Panty dropper.
I've talked about that before.
Chicks are gonna be flooding your messages. That's a great answer.
No, I've talked about that before. That's like something where, if the social media thing goes really well, whatever, I would rather the people around me remember you as being like a really good dad, not like an influencer or the sports bettor or like the funny guy. Like if you know me, I hope one day that's like my
I'd like to
hope.
be devil's advocate. Your child could also kill you. I do read these articles a lot in the news. When people are having kids, I always say to them, like, you could be raising your own murderer.
I
Just
didn't
keep
think
that in
about
mind.
that. Yeah.
I
Hopefully
watched-
they would do it in like a cool way. They'll like put me out
I
cool.
love to say that. Okay, so you both have these plans. Where do you both see yourself with this right here in the next 5 years? Do you want to have a studio? Do you want to have a crew, like your regular crew, like a McAfee crew?
I want to have like a rider, like I pull
Yeah.
up and it's like he needs the M&Ms and a bottle of water. But I want my rider to be like a bit where it's like not serious at all.
Right,
It's
right.
like you'd think it'd be like a water bottle and a thing of M&Ms. But it's like I need that every time, or like something like weird.
I had
like
a strong rider. If there was a Monday night game or a game that I was going to have to go to the club, like the guy that picked me up at the club could not have the opposing jersey on if the Cowboys were playing. So one of the guys that picked me up was Niners Cowboys Monday night. I was in Pompano Beach, Florida, and he showed up Niners jersey. I slammed the hotel door. I called the club and I'm like, you better tell this guy to take off that jersey because I'm not riding with him. I got my Cowboys shit on, so that's kind of a little bit.
It's gonna be hands. I would say for this show, the goal I think for me is very much a Joe Rogan meets a whatever the funniest podcast to whoever is, right?
Okay.
To me, I think Theo Von is hysterical, so
Yes.
I love his comedy. I love the way he tells stories. So kind of like a Joe Rogan meets really good comedy with sports in. That would kind of be
like
the goal.
In the industry of betting, there's just so much boring content. It's all analytical, crunching numbers, and to our demographic, we ain't watching that shit, you know?
I'm the horny kid that pays for the drinks.
Exactly.
Not the guy that's going to be like, hey man, listen, the last 5, here's what happened with the splits.
It's like we're just two dudes who love to bet, and we're going to talk about our wins and losses, and we're going to do it again tomorrow. We're not, probably to be a smart, profitable bettor, maybe you should, be more analytical and shit, but that's not us, and we're not going to be someone we're not. So appealing to just the common bettor, like you're sitting on the couch talking to your boys. That's what people say why they like our podcast is because they feel that way when they listen to us.
And there's a changing of the guards. There's the old heads that are not going to get any new listeners, new followers, new viewers. And there's the 18-year-old that is now born into legalized sports betting.
Exactly.
And so my fascination with you and following the both of you has just been watching how you get it, how relatable you are, how fun you are. I love that you dance in some of your videos. Like, I love all your videos. Like, I love all of it. And I just think it's great how you've merged it together. And I think some of the old heads are too cool for school and be like, I'd never do that. They're not even on TikTok yet. But what you've already captured in this short period of time is just really fun to witness. And so you say you want to be remembered as a great dad. I want my legacy to be how I affected the people and impacted the people that I've met. And so I love to watch other people succeed. So I have a lot of younger people in my life that are just like on their come up. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I want to be a part of your life. Come to me if you need anything. But more than anything, watching you and being excited for you fills that like mom void because I never wanted my own kids. And so I get to watch this and I love it. And I'm just so happy we met. I'm so happy that we were able to make this weekend happen. And now I've seen you in your space and you saw me in my space. So like we're weaving, getting to know each other into a really small space of time.
Absolutely.
No, yeah, this has been so awesome. We like really appreciate you coming on and being so open to, this kind of new era of creators because, we found it pretty difficult with that old guard necessarily, or even anyone in the industry. You talk about the females love to show love to each other, and like we notice that, but with the guys it's very much like get the fuck out of here. Like it is rare if a Barstool guy that's really high up interacts with like one of us who is like on the come up or someone from a BR betting or those sites. So we did want to say thank you for showing love and coming on the podcast, and we just really appreciate you, and getting to know you over the past 2 days has been a wild ride.
I have so much respect for you, and just hearing your journey and how you handle everyday life. Like, I'm super impressed and honestly inspired. So appreciate you coming on. It's awesome.
Thank you for having me, and you guys have access to me whenever you need me, and I'm always here.
Thank you so much. Also, just want it out there, everyone that gives me shit for the dancing, Lisa Ann said she liked it. So
I love it.
I'm going to keep it.
That's a huge dub.
It's a huge dub.
Keep it.
That's a huge dub.
Because it appeals to all the things I love, and it sucks me in. I'm like, oh my God, he's so cute. Look what he says. That's so cute.
And I just got called cute. I think we can end it there, guys. Maybe we can just end the whole thing there.
Let's go.
This has been another episode. Elisa, why don't you tell them where they can find you?
Everything is at The Real Lisa Ann. Don't fall for imposters. It's the same across the board. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everything. And go to feversmashbitters.com and check out my YouTube channel.
Bang. But don't be one. You check it out, but don't be one. Okay?
Please.
Talking to you. Behind the camera. This has been another episode from the TFM Bets. I guess, we'll be seeing.
We'll be seeing.
The couch. We didn't ask about the couch.
Oh, yeah. We were just saying that.
Right before we sign off, can we ask you just one last question?
Please.
It's really weird.
Oh, it's a great scene couch because it doesn't have arms on both sides.
Okay, so
you do have to distribute the weight properly because these can tip because they don't have as much weight from an arm. And it's a lighting thing because it allows you to open up. You could actually have a light coming in from this side where the armrest would normally be blocking that. And it's one less spot for the guy's foot to kind of fall into. Was it about a scene?
You just blew my mind. That was crazy.
Oh my God. Are you like
that was crazy.
Interior decorator expert?
Was it about every workbench I look at, I think it's a workbench. When we would show up to set, I'd always say to the director, like, yo, where's our workbench today?
So I'll say to you word for word what was said about the couch, and then you just kind of wrap that up perfectly. But we walked in and we sat down. Just keep in mind it was after a very long day of drinking.
Right.
As we sat down after the first day of games, we sit down on the couch and I look at Trent are you ready to film? And he word for word looked at me and said, "This is just a very nuttable couch." I just want you to react to that statement.
It is, and it's not an easy to clean nuttable couch either.
It is
and there's been a lot of, look,
Yeah.
that's Vegas. A lot of shit's happening. It could have been relationships, could have been, purchased. There's definitely some
I'm
shady shit on there.
We have said this is the
But
nut
look, germs
couch.
are good for us, and be happy that somebody nutted on the couch.
I'm proud of him.
Somebody got it. We were doing like CSI Miami on this couch. The other day. We were like, oh, this was probably a
chair
pull-out
would be
and swing.
difficult because you can't get light in these sides. So
Yeah.
you'd have to go over top, which creates shadows. You would really have to just use the armrest of this chair. You'd never be able to get in for the scene. So blocking out furniture is a real thing.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I didn't
never thought
think
about
about that.
Well, we could interview you for 24 hours with the amount of questions I have, but thank you so much for coming on again, Lisa. You've been awesome. Your life story is incredible. We'd love to have you on again sometime in the future as well, because the questions are just limitless.
Yeah.
But we really appreciate you again and just want to say thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be seeing.
Be seeing, guys.